Hello and welcome to another Black Panther video. On this video we will be identifying the symbols that can be found in the concept art of the Black Panther movie. This is technically a follow-up to my first Black Panther video. If you haven't seen that yet, you may want to check that out first. Alrighty, so let's look at this concept art in which we see some symbols that are carved into this seemingly ancient looking building. These symbols are known as Adinkra Symbols. They were used by the Asante of Ghana to inscribe important ideas in a visual way. Adinkra symbols are used in sculpture, jewelry, and most prominently in cloth. The Adinkra cloth was worn during special occasions, most importantly during funerals. Nowadays, of course, Adinkra symbols are used more widely by people, and I've seen so many uses of the Adinkra symbols, one wild example being of a smartphone case. So, with that said, let's look at what these Adinkra symbols on this concept art mean specifically. First, we're going to look at one of my favorite symbols, which is Fawohodie, which they squashed into the corner of this concept art, so I'm going to bring up a picture of it for you. This particular symbol, it translates to independence, and the symbol stands for independence, freedom, and emancipation. Our next symbol is Eban, which means fence, and this stands for love, safety, and security. Now, this same symbol can also be seen replicated right there. Close to that symbol is Woforo Dua Pa A, when you climb a good tree. This stands for support and cooperation. This symbol, like the other one, was replicated, and it's right here as well. Here's an important one. The Adinkrahene is the chief of the Adinkra symbols. It stands for greatness and leadership. And, as you might have noticed, it is also replicated right over here. This one here is Boa Mi Nyami Mmoa Wo. Help me help you, essentially. That's what that is saying. And it stands for cooperation and interdependence. Now, you might have noticed again that this is also replicated right here. In fact, this is how it should be standing, but they have the symbols tilted on their sides over here. Now, another interesting thing I want to point out is that this Adinkra symbol is also right here in the movie. So how about that? So it's not just in the concept art, it's also in the movie as well. This corner piece over here is Nsaa, a type of hand-woven cloth which stands for excellence, geniusness, and authenticity. And we can see this same symbol over in the corner of this other post and lintel construction. And right under that one we have Nsa Da Mu A, if your hands are in the dish, which stands for democracy and pluralism. Now this symbol here, as you might have suspected, is replicated as well right over here. It's also worth mentioning that this symbol was drawn on its side as well. This is a triangle. That is all. Honestly, I have no idea what's with this triangle here. It looks like no Adinkra symbol I know of. Maybe it is actually something, but just looks like a random triangle that the artist threw in there. Maybe he didn't space out the symbols well enough, so he just chucked that in there. As good a guess as I got. Over here we have Nkyin Kyin, which means twisting, and it's a symbol of initiative and versatility. You see the symbol down here? We're gonna skip this one for now. I'll come back to it later because this one's kind of complicated. But it is worth noting that it's also over here shown horizontally as it's supposed to be shown. Now that we're at the back of this architecture, it's worth mentioning that the Nsaa and the Woforo Dua Pa A have shown up a third time. So there's the Woforo Dua Pa A there and there. So 3 times, and the Nsaa there, there, and there. Right above the Nsaa is Dame Dame, which is the name of a board game, and it symbolizes intelligence and ingenuity. Now down here we have what is probably the most popular Adinkra symbol, which is Gye Nyame. That means except for God, and it stands for the supremacy of God. You may have noticed that there's a symbol very similar to that last one over here, and that is Nyami ye Ohene. God is king, and this symbolizes the majesty of God. And just to the left of that one is Mpuannum, which means 5 tufts of hair, and that stands for loyalty and priestly office. So I left this symbol over here for last because it's kind of a weird one. And it's also partly why I believe the artist who was working on this concept art probably drew in these symbols without actually taking the time to know their meaning, though I could be wrong. But what this is Eepa, which stands for handcuffs. And it symbolizes law, justice, and slavery. Yeah, it's slavery. Now, this is always a pretty odd symbol to me. It always stood out, and I recently took the time to check, like, what's the backstory on this one? Why do they have a symbol for slavery? Supposedly, it's actually meant to be a symbol that is anti-slavery, but it's handcuffs. So how the hell does that work? It's a weird symbol. And even if it is an anti-slavery symbol, why didn't they just use the Fawohodie that I showed you first? That symbol literally means emancipation. You don't get any more anti-slavery than that. It's also worth mentioning that this handcuff symbol was introduced during the slave trade. Now, Wakanda is supposed to be this place that was isolated from negative outside influences of the Europeans. So, I'm not trying to say that people can't use this symbol, but if you're going to use this symbol, it should make sense within the context of what you're using it for. That, coupled with a couple of other things, leads me to believe that the artist here wasn't really paying attention to the meanings of the symbols. And another reason is, why do they repeat so many symbols? There's plenty of other Adinkra symbols they could have used, but they repeated a bunch of them. And my other reasoning is that they have the Gye Nyame, the symbol for God, right on the ground. Nyame is not an earth god, he's a sky god. They have up here, that makes sense. Well, you know, why not centralize it? You could probably have centralized that. There's just a couple random things like that lead me to believe that this artist wasn't really paying attention to the meanings of these symbols. That said, I don't want people to use this as an excuse to not watch the movie, because some artists didn't know it's about Adinkra symbols. No, I'm sure the movie's still going to be badass. You should definitely still watch it. But I happen to know quite a bit about Africa, and I like to nitpick. There is one last symbol on the very corner there. It's hardly even visible, but I think I know what it is. Nyami, Biribi, Soro. God is in the heavens, and that is a symbol of hope. And I think that's a good symbol to leave off on, because I'm personally hoping that Black Panther does amazingly in theaters, and I want it to actually inspire people to make more movies and video games and other types of media that's inspired by Africa. Wouldn't that be awesome? I hope you enjoyed this video about the Adinkra symbols and the concept art of Black Panther. Originally, I was going to cover the symbols that are present in the Black Panther poster as well in this video, but I decided that that will be its own separate video. And also, I plan to do other Black Panther videos in the future too. I'm even planning to do some videos that cover other superheroes as well. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing, and please share this video with your friends. Alrighty, thank you very much for watching.